וזהו ציווי קריאת שמע בכל בוקר וערב, שבכל האסכולס גבול נפרד מהגבולים שבור השם יסברך לבעלי הגבול, נעד ונכיר כי באמס הוויה אחד. So, like we mentioned last week, the world is constantly changing. The moment you have now in front of you, you've never had before. But your mind wants to tell you that you're the same guy. Nothing changed. But you're not. You've never been here before. You've never seen this. You've never experienced it. If you allow your imagination to make you believe that it's the same, then guess what? It will be the same. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want you to allow that to happen. He wants you to take control of this process. And that's why we have Krishma Boker Ve'erev, so that whenever there is a change, you don't allow your imagination in. You bring your seichel in first. You tell yourself what's going on. Don't let your autopilot tell you what's going on. And that's Shema Yisrael. And even though we do it with the Raisa, we have to read every morning and every night we have to read Kriyat Shema. An individual can choose to read Kriyat Shema whenever he feels like it. It's a pasuk in the Torah. And as we see by Yaakov Avinu, there's an inyan that when a person goes through an emotional event, when he goes up or he goes down to places that he's not used to being, he should read Kriyat Shema when he's there. If it's good, you want the yichud to soak in that goodness, to become part of it, to become good, so that you realize that this kindness was something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to give to you. He didn't have to. He wanted to. And He wanted to give you this pleasure because He loves you and He cares about you and He wants to give you a boost so you can continue living in His world and do whatever you need to do. So when you're on a high, Shema Yisrael, you're stamping it. This is real. This is life. This is what it's all about. And when you're on a low, you want to reach Shema Yisrael because you want to remember that even though it might look like it's not good, even though it might look difficult, it's all stemming from the same yichud. It's all the same goal. It's all the same end result. And if somebody's not sure about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's intentions, if we look at the Chumash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and we have from Bereshis till Vayichulu, where all the different things in creation come into manifestation. They gain existence. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu only had one message for humanity before Shabbos came. And in that message, He basically makes 2 points. First, most important, Vayvorech Elokim Oisem Pru'urvu Milu Es Haaretz V'chivshua Irdu B'dgas Hayom Miboif HaShamayim. Pru'urvu, have children, be fruitful, and take care of this world. Take it. It's yours. It's a gift. The second thing is that all the grass that grow and all the trees that give fruit, they're all for you to eat. So 2 things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to say to us as part of the creation of the universe. Pru'urvu and eat. It's the only 2 things. It doesn't mention anything else. And then, Vayichul HaShemayim V'Haaretz V'chol Tzevam, life. This is it. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. So why are we living in such a weird place? If this was the goal, then why does it look like it does? Because of the Chet. But what did the Chet do? So the Zohar is very explicit about this. The Zohar says very clearly, in more than one occasion, that the result of the Chet on man is moodiness. Moodiness. Became moody. Eitz hadas toiv v'ro. Sometimes his das is toiv, and sometimes his das is raw. Why is it such a big punishment to be moody? Look at us and you'll see. Because when you interact as a child with a moody parent, when you interact as a child with a moody adult, whether it's your teacher, or it's your mashgiach, or it's just a random guy who thinks he has to teach you a lesson, you're seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's face in that man. So what did moodiness do? It killed our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It killed our relationship with the divine. We can no longer feel his unconditional love because we can't see it. We can't see any person who can give us unconditional love. So how are we going to know that it exists? How are we going to connect to a concept that we've never experienced? And that's why the Chet of the Eitz Hadas is such a deep punishment. Because once you don't know who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is and what he wants and what he stands for, then everything becomes possible. All the evil in the world becomes possible. Once your compass is off, you don't know which way is north, then you might end up in all kinds of jungles. It's not necessarily going to be pleasant. So that is why we do this. That is why the Krishma Boker Ve'erev. That's why Krishma in the middle of the moodiness. You're up, the Yichud. You're down, also the Yichud. It's all the same. Why? Because we're building a plateau, we're building a place where we can constantly be there. And it's going to require all of us. It's going to require a certain balance that we can provide to each other so we never have to go down again. That's called the Bila Moves Lenetzach, that the brain has a balance. It functions in a way that it's kind all the time. And rationally, there's no reason it shouldn't be that way. Moodiness is not rational. So even though the Greeks have set up for us this fantastic fake virtual reality based on words that we try to comply with, as soon as our mood is down, we cease to be rational. So whatever it is that society decided for us is not necessarily going to happen anyway. You might tell a teenager, you know, this is what you need to do, this is what you should do, and this is what's best for you. And you make a very compelling argument. But a few hormones can throw all that in the garbage, like it never happened. Because his mind is not in that zone right now. The words are not meaningful right now. He's in distress. And you have to be able to address specifically what he's suffering from. It's not enough that you're giving him a rational option. Rationale has got nothing to do with it. So, Kriya Shema is where we remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the one that made all this happen, the one that put this thing into motion, which resulted in you and me sitting here and talking to each other, there's a unity there. At the same moment that he decided that you're going to exist, he also decided that you're going to be listening to my words on this fine Sunday evening. It's all part of it. It's all part of what he foresaw is going to result in perfect unity. And that's where we're headed. And there's nothing anybody could do to stop it. Nothing at all. In fact, all the people who tried to stop it made it come faster. Including those 70, 80 years ago. Everybody who tried to get in its way only makes it manifest even harder and stronger and faster. Because the suffering is what calls for help. The suffering is where a person realizes that this way is a dead end. It's useless. The more I continue, the deeper I go, the more trouble I'm looking for. And we all try to resolve our suffering somehow. We all try to find a place where we can run and hide. And this is why there are so many addictions now in the world. Everybody's addicted to something else. But people need to realize addiction is not a disease. Addiction is a type of therapy. It's where you run away from your other problem, which is your pain. So you're trying to resolve your pain, and therefore you run to your addiction. And it creates a vicious cycle. But by treating the addiction, you're not going to resolve your pain. By treating your pain, you might very well get rid of your addiction. So we're all suffering. We're all suffering. This is how we've been set up. This is how society created life for us. And we came into a ready-made situation where we're trying to function, we're trying to run on this treadmill that sometimes just runs too fast for us. And sometimes it doesn't budge when we want it to move. And the pain that society causes us, we don't know how to get out of it. So what do? We find a way to soothe ourselves. We look for a blankie. A 3-year-old running around with his blankie wherever he goes. We all need a blankie. And each one of us chooses a different one. Tzodok. So Reb Tzodok is offering you something even better. Hang your coat even higher. The yichud. Put it all into the yichud. Throw your addiction into the yichud. Throw your pain into the yichud. Throw your problems into the yichud. Throw your understandings into the yichud. Throw your misunderstandings into the yichud. They're all just steps. One day, the deepest realization you have today will seem like a joke to you. Because it's just a step. It's a step towards the yichud. Today it's meaningful. Why? Because you're lower than it. Tomorrow you'll be higher than it, and the realization is not relevant to you. That's how the Torah works. The Torah is a sulam mutzav arza v'rosh magia shamayma. What's the shamayma? What are you going to reach? You're going to reach the yichud. What's the yichud? Gam choshech lo yachshich mimeko v'layla kayoim yoyer kachashecha ko'oira. There's no difference. Makes no difference. You cannot allow your nefesh to suffer regardless of what is happening around you. It's embarrassing, it's painful, it makes no sense. I can see the results of what's happening, I can see the pain that's coming. It's none of your business, don't look. You're not helping yourself. You have a solution, go for it. You don't have a solution, don't torture yourself. Put it in the yichud. There's a mitzvot on the Chazal that says, Hashlech al Hashem Yehovcha, the pasuk, v'uyechal kelecha. Hashlech al Hashem Yehovcha. So Chazal said, Lehave yodi rabbanan maze Yehovcha. Rabbanan didn't know. What is Yehovcha? Hashlech al Hashem Yehovcha. Throw your Yehovcha on Hashem. What is Yehovcha? Until they saw this man that said to his Eved, he said, Shudei Yehovcha gamlu. Throw your Yehovcha on the camel. So the Pashup Pshat is, Yehovcha means whatever it is you're carrying, your package. So this mitzvah goes like this. Shudei Yehovcha gamlu. You know what Yehovcha means? It doesn't matter. Put it into the yichud. You don't need to know what Yehovcha means. Whatever it means, it goes in the yichud. Whatever it doesn't mean also goes in the yichud. There's nowhere else to park anything. Hashlech al Hashem Yehovcha. What's Yehovcha? Whatever you want it to be. Toiv Hashem lakoil. They say, God is good for everything. He's a solution to every problem. Why? Because He made the problem. And He made the solution. And what you think is a problem, in His creation, it's really a solution. Your pain, your addiction, your problems are pushing you to search for the truth. And the truth is Tov Moed. The truth is much better than what you can imagine. So therefore, your pain is causing you a deeper good. If you didn't have your pain, you'd stay put. It's okay. I'm fine. I'm comfortable. No problems. But that good, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, is not for you. You're not a Ben Kfar, you're a Ben Melech. I need you to be in pain. Why? Because I need you to search. I need you to dig. I need you to work. And that's why we bring in the yichud all the time. We bring in the yichud everywhere. Morning, noon, and night, whenever you have a chance, whenever you have an opportunity, whenever you feel like it, and whenever you don't feel like it. It's all part of the yichud. It's already part of the yichud. But you realize it. You take the benefit out of that truth. So this very moment, like we started talking about, is a moment that you never had and you never saw coming. You didn't know this is what it's going to look like. You couldn't have known. You didn't have the capacity, because in order to get to this moment, you had to go through every single moment that brought you here. And that never happened until today. So now that we're here, we want to realize the yichud, we want to save it, we want to put it away for netzach netzochim. Because it's that meaningful. It's a moment of life. It's a gift from the creator of the universe. How can we say no? So he says, the yichud is to remember ki be'emes havaya echad shu abilti bal gvul. He has no limits. V'meyuchid betachlis hayichud she'en sham pirit chaz v'sholem. There's nothing else. There's nothing else nowhere. Not in this world and not in any other world. The only place where anything but HaKadosh Baruch Hu can exist is in man's imagination. And even that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's just dressed up very, very tight. But from that perception of HaKadosh Baruch Hu can come pain. Why? Because it's not a real perception. It's not true. Only the yichud is true. And that's what the Torah teaches us. The Torah teaches us that it's not that we're in a reality and we have to fix it and it's going to become better. No. We're not in a reality. We're in a fictitious place that we are imagining. And reality, the truth, is so wonderful that you can't even believe it. So your job now is going to be to convince yourself that the truth is true. Because if you believe the truth the way that the truth is, you will have no problems. So why do we have problems? Because we don't believe the truth. We live in a lie. And that's how the Torah flips the whole game on how people think. People think reality sucks, it's horrible, it's difficult. Who wants to be here? Maybe in the other world they'll convince us that it was okay. You want to make it better? We can build, we can invest, we can study, we can redo. That's not Judaism. There's nothing to build, there's nothing to study, there's nothing to redo. It's perfect. But we don't believe it, so we suffer. So the yichud means that there's no period, there's nothing else. There cannot be anything else. The fact that you think that you're something different, so that there'll be people who can appreciate this reality. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu created people so they can appreciate this reality. Then they started thinking about reality in ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu preferred they shouldn't think, which caused evil to manifest. And now it's our job to go back to the unity with everything that we've learned. Because even this pain is part of a learning process. Even this pain had to happen this way. We say it in a way that we say it, kilu it happened against the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in order for people to be able to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not on the side of your pain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on the side of your pleasure. But it doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously he knew what was going to happen. Obviously it was meant to happen. This is part of the training program. Otherwise we wouldn't have the discipline that we require. So we had to go through what we had to go through. But we don't want to connect to it and say, okay, now it's the will of Hashem, I surrender to it. Don't surrender to it. This is the fight He wants you to fight. This is all part of the plan. The fight He wants you to fight is He wants you to fight evil. Every interpretation of life that causes pain is inherently evil. And it can only be justified if there's a very specific benefit that's going to cause relief afterwards. Somebody goes to the gym, he knows for an hour he's going to push, work hard, and afterwards he's going to reap benefits. That's okay. He enjoys doing it. It's fine. But if somebody were to cause somebody to have that type of pain for an hour, and there's no benefit after, there was no exercise, there was nothing, that's evil. What for? So the same thing when we interpret life. Every interpretation needs to be something that makes life more worth living. Unless there's something very specific we're trying to accomplish and we're aware of the process and we know when to abandon it if it doesn't work. And there's a place for discipline, but it's not what people think it is. So that's all part of the yichud, to realize how HaKadosh Baruch Hu works, and that the only reason that you can even think that you're something else other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can then show up to you and so that, no, you're part of it. Baruch Shem Tov. It's the only purpose. Rega katoin azavtich, berachamim gedolim akaptzich. אבל תכלס העבודה, שיקר הנברס הבוירה, היינו ייחד הווי באדנס, שגם אחר שנברא עולם הווי אחד. The creation of life doesn't change HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that created life. Everything you think, and maybe you're certain it's real, it's only because your brain is telling you so. And your brain was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was designed for this purpose. It wasn't designed to know the ultimate truth. Your brain can't tell you the ultimate truth. It doesn't have access to it. Your brain can tell you, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu design me to do? How is your brain going to tell you that? When you find the balance where it doesn't hurt, that's where you're supposed to be. That's a good starting point. Where there's no pain. Why? Because pain is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's guardrails. You violate your body, it's painful. Why is it painful? Because you shouldn't be doing it. You violate your nefesh, it's painful. Why is it painful? Because you shouldn't be doing it. Your neshama is confused, it's painful. Why is it painful? Because it shouldn't be that way. Pain is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's guardrails. Wherever you encounter pain, know that that's a line HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want you to cross. Unless you're doing surgery, and then you better be a good surgeon and know what you're doing. Otherwise you can rip somebody apart completely. And we can laugh about it. If we think about it physically, it seems extremely cruel. But unfortunately, this is done spiritually on a daily basis by people who have no idea how the spirit works. You rip into people on left and on right for nothing, for nonsense. Because they didn't like how they did or how they said or what they thought or what they should have thought or shouldn't have thought. And how can you think like this and how can you forget that? Pure and utter nonsense. That's not life. The fact that it's important to you, fine, go see a psychologist. We don't violate human spirits because we think that something should be a certain way. How stupid can we be? The human spirit is not a toy. In fact, there's nothing more permanent than a human spirit. There's nowhere HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ever appear in this world, in this entire universe, other than inside a human spirit. Nowhere. It's the only place He wants to be. Inside your neshama. Somebody who steps on a human neshama is taking away HaKadosh Baruch Hu's home in this world. And this world happens to be the only world HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about. Because this one is real. All the other ones you're imagining. So the yichud means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is echad like before, and so now. Everything is Him. Don't fight with it. Understand it, study it, figure it out, so that you can have a blissful relationship with it. So it says Avaya and Adnes are one, like we said in the beginning about the Yichud HaMefursam. V'hem, the Havaya, which is the koich of the unity, and the Adnes, which is the forces of nature, all the different forces that are coexisting in order to create what we experience. Mi'echodim betachlis o echod, they're united as one could possibly be. She'ein choitzetzim kol habrum b'fnei hayichud ha'amiti keyedua. There's nothing any creature could do or be that will change anything in the yichud. The yichud is permanent. The yichud cannot go anywhere by its very nature. וזה ישילב ואויס ישרם ושהכל אחד בכל חלקיהם, והיינו שיהיה נרגש כך בלב. So the realization we're dealing with here is not a realization that you should have in your mind. It starts in your mind. But your mind needs to get so overwhelmed by it that your heart starts singing too. Then we know you got it. As long as it's just in your mind, then it's not an experience. It's an idea. It's information. Information is a good start. But until you take that information and you put it into action, you make it real, it's still not affecting you. It's still not changing you. So the place where this unity needs to live is inside your heart. Emotionally, you should feel it. You should recognize something about yourself that you haven't recognized before, which is that you're at the end of a long, long, long process. And the thoughts that you're having are not because you want to have them, it's because this is the divine result of all the inputs that you've taken in over your lifetime. Kadosh Baruch Hu created the brain in such a way that when you go through your life and you absorb all the information you have until this day, then it gives you the experience that you've had today. That's a divine result of a brain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, not you. You were there when the input came in. So what? You didn't decide what the brain is going to give you as a result. You can't. Some people might say, I wish I could. But let me tell you, it's a terrible idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is much better at it. So, when a person realizes this, his self shrinks into a tiny little dot that doesn't even know who he is. He's observing whatever it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. He was there the entire time while it was being created. Doesn't make it him. Do any of us know how to assemble a body? Most of us don't even know where all the organs are going to go. Yet, this experience wouldn't be possible even for one moment without those organs. So it can't be us. Certainly not us. Certainly not us. We're conscious. It's nice to be conscious sometimes. But it's not us doing. It's not us thinking. It's not us speaking. There's a formula here that was designed by somebody who we shouldn't even call a genius. The word's too small. It's something we can't fathom, something we can't contemplate, something we can't understand. And he custom designed our experience so that when we do it right, it's good, and when we do it wrong, it hurts. He made sure of it. You know why? Because it's that important to him that we get it right. If it didn't hurt when we get it wrong, how will we get it right? It's so important to him that we get it right that he said, if you don't get it right, I'll make sure you suffer. And that's something that people today have a difficult time understanding because there's so much suffering. It almost looks like it's intentional. But this is Galus. This is Galus. We've been set up in Galus. All the Mamar Chazal about suffering and about how we need to suffer and how about this world is all about suffering, that's part of the Galus. That's part of this, how they set up our Torah so that we can go through 2,000 years of suffering and still be here. But if we ever want the suffering to end, we have to work in the right direction. We have to open ourselves up to what's real and what's not real. Galus is not real. Galus is a condition of the mind. Galus is when a person is disconnected from his true essence and he doesn't realize what's happening inside of him or outside of him. That's Galus. And in order for us to be able to get closer to coming out of Galus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'roiv Rachmav, sent us holy people, the Baal Shem Tov HaKodesh, to tell us that Klal Yisrael has suffered enough. Stop making them suffer more. Because Baruch Hu hasn't decreed more suffering. The suffering we're doing now is just our own. It's just what we create from the inertia of so much suffering. It just continues and continues until we learn how to stop it. So we have to figure out how to disconnect from our pro bono suffering and start doing some real work for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bringing this world into a peaceful place, into a pleasant place, into a place that people want to live in it, enjoy being here. You know why? Because then they'll be grateful. And there's nothing more HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us than to be grateful. You know why? He doesn't need our gratefulness. He knows that this is what we were designed for. So the most efficient and productive use of this machine called the body and the mind is to be grateful. How does the Zohar say? Everything that we counted until the last pasuk, says the Zohar, is meaningless. It doesn't count. There's only one thing that counts. Is the neshama mahalel kol? Then we're doing okay. And if not, who cares what everybody else is doing? Nobody, not even HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The biggest bands, the stars doing a beautiful show, the music, the singing. If the neshama is not mahalel, if the neshama doesn't realize that there's something to be grateful for, then who cares? All of that was only given so that we can be moired the neshama. To HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only thing real in this world is our neshamas. Nothing else matters. Everything else is props. So when somebody makes the prop more important than the neshama, he's not on the same page as HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's not building HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world. He's got a different world. To him, this prop, that's what it's all about. The money, the house, the car, whatever it might be. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created life. And it's a miserable one at that. If that's the goal, then it is a misery. And it's not worth living. But when you see life from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspective, he only sees neshamas. How do we make these neshamas better, smarter, closer to themselves, closer to each other? Why? Because that's what defines life. That's what creates life. That's what makes life happen. You have the right neshamas, and everybody will have the houses and the cars and the foods and everything else they want for free. If we would really want to do good to each other, oh boy, can we do a lot. We all have spare time. Even the ones who think they don't, they have more than everybody else. So it says, the Yichud says that the Yichud betachlis echad shein chotzin kol habrim ifnei Yichud amiti v'zeh shila v'oisis, that it should be nirgash balev, that it should feel in his heart. And how can you wake up the heart? How can you make sure that the heart's involved? V'zeh shila v'oisis v'zeh al yedei ahava v'yira kanal. Through ahava v'yira, through emotions, you wake up the neshama, you wake up the spirit, you wake up whoever is inside, and he comes and he wants to participate, he wants to be. When it's ahava, he wants to be there. When it's yira, he doesn't have a choice. He's being beckoned by the king. Who's the king? Reality. Reality says you need to be here. Why? Something dangerous is going down. So the neshama wakes up. Oh, okay. What are we doing? A person feels all that energy, all that intensity in his body. It's like all these parts of himself he hasn't seen in ages, suddenly they're here, trying to protect what's theirs. So these Ahava and Yira, they wake up the neshama. Why are we waking up the neshama? So we can put in the yichud in there, so that it can recognize what's going on, so that it can appreciate. Even the Ahava and the Yira become one. He was happy out of his fear, and he was afraid out of his happiness. Happiness comes from ahava. The fear is the yira. How can they both be in the same place? Because when you go to the Shoresh that created them all, everything is one. Everything is one. There is nothing else. The Baal Shem Tov has a yichud that a person should make when he's afraid, called being meyachad yira with noira. What does it mean to be meyachad yira with noira? So yira is the fear that you feel inside of you. Noira is what you're afraid of. And the yichud works when you realize that the fear is what you're afraid of. The yira and the noira is all the same. Because when you have love, you're not afraid. So it's the fear that's making you afraid. Yira and noira. And it's really all one. It's all noveya from one place. And if you look even deeper into the yira, you recognize that all yira is based on love. Why is yira based on love? Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't be afraid. You care, you're invested. You want something to be a certain way. Why do you want it a certain way? Because your heart's in it. Because you love something. You have a relationship with something. And then you say, if this is going to happen to what I love, I'm afraid of that. I don't want it to be. You don't want to lose it. You don't want it to get hurt. You don't want it to go away from you, or to whatever it is that you're connecting, but you're attaching yourself to something, and every attachment is a hava. And so to release yourself of that yira, you release yourself from that attachment. What do we know? Maybe what you really want and what you really think is going to do you good might actually ruin your life. We don't know. We don't know. And we won't know. We won't know. People are afraid of the unknown. You don't know what's to come. Well, I got news for you. Nobody knows what tomorrow is going to be. Nobody. Nobody. Never going to happen. Tomorrow is going to stay unknown for the rest of your life. So become its friend. Do yourself a favor. Don't be afraid of it. They don't know what tomorrow is going to be. Ruach HaKodesh is knowing certain things that are true. They get an insight. But Ruach HaKodesh is not actually being able to focus your flashlight wherever you want it to. It's not how it works. Nobody knows what tomorrow is going to bring. Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. And that's okay. And that's okay. You know how we know it's okay? Because that's how he set it up. He didn't give us any other option. So by us being afraid of it, it means we don't trust his design. We don't trust what he made. But it carried us still here, didn't it? So what did we gain by all those years of fear about what tomorrow is going to bring? And here we are. Did you invest that fear somewhere so you can cash it in today? You did, in your mind. And your present is a little bit less good because of it. Less fear, more present. You can release the handbrake now. So Eliyahu says, Samachti mitoch yirosi v'yaresi mitoch simchosi. I was happy in the time of my fear. Why? Because I was feeling the fear drawing me closer and closer to my truth. The fear was peeling off all the klipot, all the imagined stuff that I thought was real, and suddenly in the moment of fear they do nothing for me. So now I know how real they are. I was happy. I was happy to shed. I was happy to get to know myself better, even though it was very much the unknown. But Eliyahu already made a very deep peace with the unknown. He had zero fear of the unknown. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him his brisi shalom. He had a bris of peace. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you peace, even fear itself can't shake you. That's why he could get to the places that he could. That's why he could be Eliyahu Navi. So he wasn't afraid. He was happy. He was happy that he's getting to know himself better, that he's shedding some of those illusions. And at the same time, he was afraid out of his happiness. His happiness caused him fear. Because he felt so close when he was happy. He felt the love, and he realized who he's dealing with. Who does he love? He loves someone that can solve all your problems in less than an instant. It's a good relationship to have. Some very powerful vitamin P. He's happy. He's getting close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but at the same time he feels the fear. The fear is that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows a tiny bit more than Eliyahu Hanavi is ready for, boom, can't handle it. Even Eliyahu Hanavi, there's a limit how much he can handle before it disappears back into his shoydish, back into his source, the one that created all this. Too much recognition, and a person is just lost in all that bliss, all that love. He just swims into it and he doesn't find a way out. And this is how tzaddikim pass away from the world. They see a little bit more than they can handle. But boy, is it pleasant. It's the most pleasurable moment of their life. And not by a little bit, by miles and miles. Why? Because they suddenly realize the truth that they couldn't realize their entire life. And they spend their whole life convincing themselves that this truth is true. And then, in that moment, they finally realize that they were right. Every day we go through, we put another day in storage, so to speak. It's gone. Yesterday is gone. Nothing anybody can do about that. What we did yesterday is not gone. What we did yesterday is eternity. And now the same thing's happening. Every moment something's going into storage. Permanent storage, eternal storage. But we get to choose. We get to choose every moment. We get to choose. What do we put in storage? What kind of world are we leaving behind every moment? What kind of self are we leaving behind? What kind of self did we come into the moment with? And what kind of self did we leave the moment with? If we keep moving in the right direction, you will not recognize yourself. You will not recognize yourself. Because where you stand now, you have options. But they're nowhere close the options you're going to have in a week from now if you've been moving in the right direction. And certainly nowhere close to where you're going to be in a year from now or 10 years from now. Opportunities, possibilities, thoughts, and realizations that you didn't even think you will ever have access to can suddenly become your daily routine. Why? Because it's not up to you. Because Baruch Hu created you with your potential. You're not limited by your imagination. You're not limited by anything. You just have to open up to what's real. And try to forget some of the lies. Because if we can all forget the lies even for just one moment, then that's a gula. Once you see the truth, once you experience it, that's your individual gula. Like Baal Shem Tov says, Korvel nafshi gula, that a person needs to work on his individual gula before he can help the klal in their klolius de gula. As long as the nefesh is still in golus, while he's trying to help Klal Yisrael get out of their galus, he might be putting some of its children deeper into galus, because he himself doesn't know what he's talking about yet. That's why you have tzaddikim that lit up the way for us. Today, and this was said by tzaddikim, nobody has a chance of realizing the true meaning of Torah without the order of the Baal Shem Tov. Why? Because Chazal bundled us up to go into galus. And the Baal Shem Tov unbundled us so we can get out of galus. So as long as we don't connect to the light of the Baal Shem Tov, we don't connect to the light of the Geula, we're learning the Torah in a way that can keep us in galus. And this Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said already in a different language, that when a person learns the pshat of the Torah and he doesn't connect it to the Chochmah, he doesn't connect it to the Kabbalah, he doesn't connect it to the Pnimius, and he says, well, learn pshat is good enough. He says a person like that is extending our galus. He's bringing the world back to Tov Avo. He's damaging life. Why? Because the pshat of the Torah doesn't go alone. The pshat of the Torah is a tool that the Manhigei Adar can use when they understand properly what's being told and what's trying to be conveyed. But if they don't understand what's trying to be conveyed, then the pshat can go in any direction. Like the Gra says, that the pshat of the Torah cannot be understood before the soid. Only after the soid do you know the pshat. So we have to realize this. The Baal Shem Tov tried to change how we see life, how we see reality, and we have Reb Tzodok to interpret it to us in a way that's more easy for us to conceive. Reb Tzodok spent a lifetime trying to combine the two, the Pshat Torah, the Mamor Chazal, with the Pnimius, with the Kabbalah and the Zohar. And only through realizing the true meaning of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in store for us, only through realizing how much He really loves every neshama in this world, how much He really cares, how much is riding on our success, what a difference it will make, not only to us, but even to the Goyim. It says if the Goyim knew what the Beis HaMikdash does for them, that they'd all run here and build it for us. Because we're talking about a different life, a different level of consciousness, a different level of perception, a different way of interacting. It's a life that's worth living. May we all be zoicha. Because Baruch Hu should be merachem on His nation. We should take it out of galus. And we should be able to rejoice with the truth for eternity. Amen.
That was what? Had 2 cups, and 1 cup that I refilled, and 1 cup, this was a cup that I refilled.
So?
I don't know. It's not a... Which one is real? The one that I had.
Right, Shema Hava. And Baruch Shem was Yira. You can always, that's the thing with these things. You can always reverse them. Because everything has everything, and that's, you know. That's why we say, B'tchila rechimu, rechimu d'chila. It always goes like that. Because as soon as you have 2 sets of things, there's going to be a mix and match that you can do. Yeah.
Why must it be specifically the Torah of Baal Shem? You have many of the great Tzaddikim connecting the Torah, Arizal, Ari. Why specifically?
Because the Baal Shem changed our lifestyle, not only our Torah. Understand? He was involved with people to change how they perceive themselves and how they perceive life. The Arizal was a tremendous scholar, and he got to many realizations, but you can't really share that with the general population. They have no idea what he's talking about. They don't know what's bothering him and how what he says solves that problem. So it was a preparation. I don't know if the Baal Shem Tov would ever be without an Arizal before. But the Baal Shem Tov was the one that came out and said specifically, we have been battered, we've been broken, and we need to change how we do business over here. Can't continue with the same thing because it's not going to work. And the truth is, that the Torah was hidden for a certain number of years, especially in the time of the Rishonim, in the early Rishonim. And at that time, Judaism took a shift into pilpulim and a lot of shalas etshuvas and halachas svarim and other stuff that was never there in Judaism before. Judaism went for a very long time before the Rambam wrote his first halacha sefer. And the Rambam was not a mekubal, he was a philosopher. Because at that time, Kabbalah was not available. So it's more a philosophical approach. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to do? Let's create a list and we're going to solve his problem. But that's not how the Torah was originally given. Chazal never looked at it that way. And they had many possibilities to do a lot of things that were done later. They didn't want to. They didn't see it that way. They didn't understand it that way. The Torah is a wisdom. It's not a list. It's not rules. It's not halachas. The Torah Shebechsav doesn't even have hardly any halachas. It says do's and don'ts, but it doesn't get into detail about what, when, and where. So the Torah is a lot more than people give it credit for. And the only one who and all the tzaddikim agreed that came after, that he was the beginning of the light of Mashiach, is the Baal Shem Tov. And that's why he's called the Baal Shem Tov, meaning that his Shem was Tov, it was pure. And this is what he came to give to the world, a shift. It's a shift in consciousness, it's a shift in perception. It's not the same. It's not what they did before. It's what they did way before. Like Tzaddikim said, that the Baal Shem Tov brought back to us the practices of the Nevi'im. Rabbi Nachman is a great grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. So that's all a continuation. Different interpretations of what the Baal Shem Tov was saying. All of them. But I like to go to the Degel Machne Ephraim because he grew up on his lap, and when he says Shematim Adon Yovis Kaini, it's not only that he heard it firsthand, it's also that he didn't hear other stuff. Like the Toldos Yaakov Yosef also heard firsthand, but he heard firsthand after hearing 60 years of other stuff. So it's not the same. The Degel Machne Ephraim was pure, young child. And the Baal Shem Tov was involved in his chinuch.
So what, age 13?
Yeah, I saw 11. There's even a shitta of 5, but it can't really be. Because in Baal Shem Tov's letters, he mentions his grandson and he says that he's godol b'malas halimud, and it wouldn't make sense for a 5-year-old. So I think the accepted version is 11.